Wow, what an honor to be here with my main man. Zaya, what's going on, brother? Thank you for having me.
Now, what fans, of Movie Junk, don't realize is that, Michael's like royalty to Movie Junk. You're one of our very, very first guests with over 3 decades of experience as an actor, writer, director. It's a truly an honor to have you back on today, my friend.
Let's just say a starving actor, as we always say, right? But I'm working hard, brother. And thank you so much. And you're amazing. And the work you've been doing, I've been following you all along. Movie Junk rocks. All the other guys out there with amazing interviews, but you're my guy.
Thank you,
it's nice to be back.
Love it, brother. Thank you, my man. Michael's no stranger to the Karate Kid and Cobra Kai fandom. You played Ned Randall, the bully, alongside Hilary Swank and Pat Morita in the next Karate Kid. You've also been on The Sopranos. You were Gary Lamanna, Feach's nephew.
I was.
And I'm also excited to share the release date. We have a release date now, Ritornato, May 8th.
May 8th, Ritornato on ritornatothemovie.com. I'm excited about it. So let's hope it's all good. You know what I mean? It's going to be good. It's going to be great. So
now, Michael, I got to ask, I noticed that you're growing the hair a little bit. Are you
I'm a hippie
on making a comeback as Ned Randall and Cobra Kai?
I think so. I think that's what's going to happen. Actually, I promised my wife, Maria, that I would cut my hair when we were allowed back into Sicily. So that may be about 2 or 3 years from now. So it'll be down to probably mid-back by that time, but we'll see. Getting prepared for something else as well. So I don't know if I'll wear the hair long or short. It's kind of cooler, a little crazier, but we'll see.
And I mean, you're no stranger to we mentioned, to the Cobra Kai and Karate Kid universe, and you were in the next Karate Kid, which is the first Karate Kid film of the 90s.
Absolutely.
Now, we have the character of Julie Pierce, who's way different than Daniel.
Right.
So what was it like preparing for this role, and was there any kind of added pressure, joining the franchise?
Well, I always thought the first one was fantastic. I thought that was the best of any of them, including ours, including mine, including Cobra Kai. I just thought number one was just a very special, beautiful film. John Avildsen, who did Rocky and other beautiful films. So when I got the part, it was very interesting to me. So I went back and watched it again. And I said, well, I'm going to be this guy. I'm going to be the archetypal bad guy. This is who I am. I didn't know at the time, I wasn't sure that it was going to be a girl. I thought maybe it was the girlfriend of Daniel at the moment. I didn't know. And then when I found out it was a girl, I was like, oh, how are they going to do this? But just kind of, you work on trying to find ways to not make it different, like stay in the same lane, but try to bring your own nuances to it and stuff like that. So I didn't feel any pressure. I think the pressure was solely on Hilary playing Julie. It was a very difficult thing for her, I think, coming into a franchise that was such a big hit, and then making it a girl. And I always say, is that she was the Me Too movement before Me Too began. It was Hilary fighting a bully like me, kicking my butt all over the streets. So I have a lot of respect for her. There it is right there. Yes. I have a lot of respect for her. And I don't think we all knew what we were into. We only knew that we were part of a beautiful franchise that was really, really successful. And little did we know that Hilary would go on to win 2 Academy Awards, which I thought was very, very incredible. And she deserves them. And just to work with great actors, Michael Ironside, Pat Morita, Chris Conrad was great. Everybody was great, and thinking back many years ago, you sit there sometimes and you're like, wow. I remember sitting on the docks and like one of the last days of shooting in Boston, I was like sitting in the Jeep and I was like, what a special time. And, I tried to really, really take it in and really, really say, wow, I mean, wherever this goes, you have an opportunity now to be part of something very special, and will always be part of something special. If people like it or not is an irrelevant thing to me. And it's what I always say. It's like, actors do their best no matter where they are. So like it or hate the movie, this or that, just understand the actors give their best, and sometimes the movies don't come out as great as they want, or there may be a different vision that you might want. But in the end of the day, we all work very hard. And I think that there's a place for this movie. And obviously the fans think so too. I've been getting a lot of calls from all over the world, which is fascinating. As you know, every magazine and GQ Mexico and Screen Rant and Den of Geeks. When is Ned coming back? It could be Ned. It could be this one. So you know what? If it is, it is. If it isn't, it isn't. I'm grateful either way to be connected in some way to this great franchise. And we go on and do other things,
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of The Next Karate Kid. And for me, I grew up seeing The Next Karate Kid, I feel like more than some of the other films because it was on the Disney Channel. So like
Yeah.
this new generation, The Next Karate Kid
Right.
was available for us. And
Yeah.
I thought it was a great opportunity. It was something different. It was different from what we were used to seeing. You know what I mean? It felt like by the time we got to the third, we were kind of seeing kind of
Yeah.
another version of the first movie. So it took a
Yeah.
lot of nuts.
Like I didn't understand. Like I could understand the second one, and then and when it got into three, I was like a little bit like, all right, where's this going? People often compare the movies, and it's really hard to compare our movie with three or two. But I think they at some point it went a little bit farther than it should have gone, or it was a little bit more than what I think it could have been. Or the one thing that I love about it is that the relationship with Mr. Miyagi, Pat, and Hilary in our movie, I thought that was fantastic. Like a father-daughter kind of deal, and she was a teenage girl like trying to find herself, and so I found that compelling. People always ask me, Michael, the car blows up, you blow up the car. That's a little crazy. Yeah, but it's a movie, right? So
Yeah.
in three there's three grown men beating up a kid. So I'm like, what's right and what's wrong? If you believe it, then it's believable, right? So I think that people have come back to this film and realize that Hilary did a really wonderful job. And it's nice. And I've gotten calls from young girls, writing to me and just saying how, you changed my life. And we thought you were so mean. Then when you write back to me, you're so nice. And,
Yeah.
It's Disney really reached a lot of people. And then now being, as we premiered on Netflix all over the world,
Yep.
It's been crazy when you get calls or people write you from Brazil or Pakistan or wherever they're, London, and it's been wonderful for me. So I get a chance to really spend a little time giving my point of view, or they're asking me a question and ask me like background on Ned or something. And I had this one guy, Isaiah, he wrote a whole, like basically a pilot episode for Ned's character. And I thought it was amazing. Like he had this whole history, where he came from, what he did, who he was. And I was like, wow, that's a series. I said, why don't you please write the show for me? So I'm indebted to the fans and wherever you are, fans, thank you so much for being supportive of the film. And even if you didn't like the film, being supportive of us as actors, I greatly appreciate it. And I get it. People have opinions, but the only thing I ask is that be respectful, say it in a respectful way, and then you're good,
Yeah, I personally don't think that we would still be talking about Ned Randall if it didn't make that impact or if fans didn't like it. So I think the reason why we still, get the opportunity to meet with you and kind of hear the story behind it is because fans did enjoy it, and we're still talking about it. I mean, what, 27 years, almost 30 years later. So
I got a text yesterday from it was really funny text from a young girl, maybe 19 or 20 or 21 or something. And she's like, I'm watching you right now. And I'm laughing. She goes, why didn't they say you're Italian? And she puts the flame, the thing, and she goes, you're hot. And I started cracking up. I said, I'm an old man, but back then, you are who you are. But she says, you're the ultimate bad guy, and you had a great body, and you're edgy, and they need to bring you back. And I was like, oh, thank you so much. But yeah, and maybe you're right. I mean, I think you leave. I think Zaya in the nostalgic way, you leave a mark in somebody like your age or even a little bit younger who knew the film when they were younger. You leave a mark in them for the rest of their life, even good or bad. And the movie's good or bad, they remember seeing it. So I think they most people I encounter are very warm to me in that respect. They may not have liked the film, but they say, wow, we love you and you were great. And, I can't believe I'm seeing this. I remember this when I was a kid and now my daughter's watching it. And, so that always brings a warm feeling to me, it's great.
And also too, I mean, Pat Morita, Mr. Miyagi,
Wow.
off screen is so much different, right? And you would know
Yeah.
better than most. Off screen was so much different than the character. What
Yeah.
was it like off screen? Did he give you any additional guidance? I mean, you guys had a very intense
Yeah.
scene. Was there any
Yeah.
additional guidance that he gave you?
Yeah, and the one most important thing he gave me is when we had to reshoot the ending of the movie, and I think I've probably said this in another whatever, but I was trying to find that little moment, that little nuance where the character could turn a little bit, because it was very difficult when you're playing that part, that bad guy, to turn at that moment. So we reshot the scene, I think 3 months later. And here in LA, we had shot the original ending in Boston, and then we shot over here at the studios at Columbia and at Sony, I mean. And I remember doing the scene, and then he was looking behind the camera, he was like looking over, and then he waved me over and he's like, Michael, come here. And yes, Pat. He's like, listen, he goes, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. It's great. And I was like, wow. So he was very, very like supportive, and even on the set, like he you go and watch. And he's like, he's not doing anything. Like he's, and then all of a sudden you see it on the big screen. You're like, wow, he's doing so much, with his eyes, with his, he makes a gesture. And listen, for sure, Pat had his troubles in life, as we all do, battled some demons, as we all do. But as an actor and as a leader for us on the set, he was brilliant. As we know, he was a brilliant dramatic actor. That's one of the things that I love. And I'm not sure, I think it was in one or two. I think it was in one, where he's looking at his wife in the war, I think.
Yeah.
Was that number one?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he got nominated for Academy Award for that, didn't he?
Yep.
Yeah, and I thought that was brilliant. You know me, I love dramatic films, and as we know, we talk about writing all the time. And for me, that really proved to me how great he was.
Yeah.
Because he could do something and be funny and be light, but then that moment when it really, really was something deep, he hit you hard and you didn't expect it. And you were like, wow. And I think I might have cried either. I probably cried too, as I remember, but because it just really hit my heart. And there's very few people, I believe, in this industry today that could be or can do what Pat did. Now, here's an Asian man many years ago doing this thing way better than anybody else. And to be comedic and to be, on sitcoms and being a comedian, and then going to do dramatic work, and then doing this, Mr. Miyagi is like a superhero with no violence. Where do we get that today? Do we get that anywhere? Because all I see is people beating each other up. He did it so beautifully and so elegantly, and also Ralph, the way he responded was beautiful and elegant, and the way their relationship was really, really tremendous. And I think that's something that I don't think it's going to be duplicated. I really don't.
Yeah, I mean, his journey just getting onto the first Karate Kid film was insane. I mean, the studio didn't want him.
Yeah.
I think John Avildsen may have been his only champion for that role. But yeah, I mean, because for the studio, I mean, they know him as the stand-up comic, you know what I mean? From the 50s, 60s, plus and Happy Days as well, too.
Arnold.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, he really broke ground. I mean, his journey to get on to even get into the first movie was insane. But also too, you have a pretty unique story too. I mean, before landing the next Karate Kid, you had a unique journey as far as how you got into the business. Do you mind just quickly tapping in?
Sure. I played collegiate football. I was a pretty good athlete. I thought maybe I was going to go pro, and then I got hurt my last season, so that kind of ruined it for me. I started working on Wall Street. So I would work the night shift, and I would take the train downtown. And I remember I was on the train, and some guy was sitting next to me, and he kind of leans over, looks at me, goes, you got a good look. I'm like, how you doing? A little strange on a train in New York, I'm all dressed up in a suit. He goes, and he goes, you should take my card. So I took his card, and I thought in my head, this guy's crazy, but whatever. So I waited for him to leave, and then when he left, I looked at the card. I said, oh, this is He's a big agent. It looks like an agency, like a legitimate agency. J. Michael Bloom. So I was getting a little disillusioned working on Wall Street, to be honest with you. And I was working nights, and I'm like, what am I doing? What am I doing in my life? I don't want to do this. So then one day I called him, and he remembered me. He goes, come into the office. So I went downtown, and he was sitting behind his big desk, and he pushed these papers in front of me. He goes, read this. I'm like, read what? He goes, read this here. I said, okay. I go, what is it? He goes, just do it. It's a scene from whatever. So I read it, and he goes, that's pretty good. You're a natural. And then so on and so forth. And then he said, I want to send you out on some meetings. And I got my first job. I got a small part in a soap opera. And then he said to me, he goes, I'm going to open an office in California. Do you want to go? And I got to be honest, in my life, other than my parents, obviously, but it was really like tough for me as an athlete. I always had to overcome so many things. So I never really had a coach to take my side. And for the first time, I really felt like there was somebody behind me. So I said, what am I doing here? And working on Wall Street, I'm miserable. It's cold in New York. I said, how can I lose here? I go to California, check it out. So I went, and, I stayed for about maybe 6 weeks, and I signed up for an acting class. I was in class with Ray Liotta, actually, in Melanie Griffith. And I didn't know what I was doing. I was totally lost. Harry Master George was the teacher. And I remember sitting in the class, like, I don't know what they're doing here. I don't get it, And then I remember I went back to the apartment, and he said to me, I'm going to go back. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, I'm going to go back. I have to straighten some stuff out. He goes, so you could stay at my place. His place was an empty building on Swallow Drive in Beverly Hills. It was just a shell of a building that, they were finished buildings. So I didn't want to go back home, and I couldn't stay with the people I was staying with. I was staying in their place, a friend that they knew. And I said, okay, I'll stay. And I stayed. And his friend that I was staying with, we both were staying with, was the manager who was going to be a partner with him. So she started sending me out, and I got, like, on my first audition, I got a little small TV show, I think with Richard Tyson. I think we talked about that.
Oh, yeah.
Hardball.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hardball. Yeah. With John Ash. John Ash. Yeah.
Taggart.
Yeah. My first part actually out here. And then I got my SAG card there. And
I
then
actually like that show. I remember that show as a kid. I love that show.
Yeah, it was a fun
Right.
show. Yeah. And then I went in to audition for Book of Love, and I went in like 5 times, and I didn't even know what I was doing. And they kept bringing me back. Robert Shea, who at the time was the head of New Line Cinema, and he was directing the picture, and he really liked me, and he kept bringing me back. And it goes back to this, what the guy said to me on a train. You look like this guy, Ken Wall. And I remember Ken Wall was in The Wanderers, and I'm like, okay, maybe that's why they like me so much, because this Book of Love is a movie like around the Greasers in the 50s and whatever. So I said, maybe that's kept bringing me back. And then I remember my last audition, I screwed it up. And actually it wasn't me, it was the casting director who screwed up the lines, but I kind of got a little bit fumbled with it as well. And I ended up not getting the lead, but I ended up being in the whole movie. And that's where it went. And then, right after that, my mother got very sick, and I had to go back to New York, and I was out of LA for a couple of years. And then I returned, and then Karate Kid came up, and here we are. This is how it worked. Crazy, right?
That journey is insane. I mean, to be on a train, to get discovered, on a train, it kind of reminisces, like to the story of Lilo Brancato, where he got discovered on a beach.
Sure.
And
sure.
So it does happen, not always, but it can happen that way. And it's amazing that one conversation led to the career that you have today.
I think that's really fascinating. You said something earlier too, Zaya, that I really appreciated, was that, it only takes one person to believe in you. One. And like you were saying about Pat, he was having such a hard time getting the part. Even Al Pacino with The Godfather, nobody wanted him. And sometimes it's so discouraging for actors to go through this process of auditioning and to be beat up and be told no. But I must say, to all actors out there, anybody who loves something for the passion of loving it, just keep going. Just keep going. Don't give in, because one will go your way. And for me, the Karate Kid went my way because I was, had lost my mom. I was having a very difficult time, and I felt like for one moment I was sprinkled with some good golden dust from the heavens above, and I got a break. Listen, I haven't got breaks after that many, many, many times. I would say 99.9% of the times I don't get the job. But if you get one, you're doing a lot better than other people. But if you have one person believing in you, you can move mountains. I really believe that. So that's how I feel.
Absolutely. And
yeah,
Michael, I do want to ask you more of a fan question. And just because you mentioned the Godfather and you're an Italian, so I got
and I'll tell you another story about the Godfather after you talk about that.
Oh man, I want to hear this. And so I got to ask you, out of the trilogy, which one's your favorite?
That's a tough one. One or two, obviously. I might like two better, only because I'm Sicilian, as we know, and I love the stuff in Sicily very much.
Yeah.
But it's a toss-up for me because one, you got Brando, and it's like he's the greatest actor that I've ever seen, and obviously Al and everybody in that. So I think I'm gonna have to go with one.
One, huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I toss between all three of them because I actually really like part three. There's certain elements of part three that I really like. But for me, I mean, it's tough. I lean towards two because I like the Cuba elements, and they go back and forth between Sicily and then the times today. So it's just
Sicily. Why are we talking Sicily? I don't know why. But Godfather 3, I'll tell you what. That was one of my first auditions in Los Angeles. Okay.
Wow.
So I told you I was in acting class with Harry Master George, with Ray and Ray Liotta and Melanie Griffith.
You auditioned for the third Godfather?
Yeah, I'll tell you the story. It was a little crazy story. So back then, you would submit headshots, like paper headshots. So I remember sitting in the acting class. I would sit all the way in the back because I was so nervous and I didn't know what I was doing. So I basically watch all the time. I never really got on stage. And the one time I got on stage, I was totally horrible. Didn't know what I was doing. Seriously, it was embarrassing. So I was a little bit disillusioned, and I was working with this really, really small agency and this manager that I told you about, and they got a hold of my picture, right? And they brought me in to read for Godfather 3 for the role that eventually went to Andy Garcia. Obviously, I was too young, but what happened was it was what they were looking for. They found it. I just wasn't ready for the part. Just wasn't ready to be in that level. And I remember going into the audition, and the casting director was a very, very big casting director, Roger Musendum. Very, very nice man. And I remember going into the meeting with him, and there was no script. It was from Danny in the Deep Blue Sea, a play. So I called the acting coach. I said, Harry, I don't know what I'm doing. He goes, do what you do in class. I said, I don't know what I'm doing in class. He goes, just use your imagination. I was like, oh my Lord. So I did my best, and I went in, and I was really horrific. I mean, it was horrible performance. And, but Roger saw something in me, liked me. So he said, listen, come back. I want to work with you on the material. So he brought me back, and I worked with him a little bit again. And I started to catch on. He goes, I'm going to bring you back. And then he brought me back in front of the producers and Mr. Coppola. And I basically had like a heart attack in the room. I was so nervous. I was like hyperventilating, and I went through the audition. It was like an out of body experience where you're like saying the words, but you're like really seeing that you're saying it really bad. So needless to say, did not get the part, but that was one of my first auditions in California. Crazy, right?
That's awesome. I mean, that would have been amazing if we saw you in God, especially.
Yeah, I mean, anything would have been, just holding somebody's shoe would have been great in The Godfather 3,
I feel like you and Al Pacino would have had some really good chemistry together. That would have been awesome.
I would have loved, I had a friend of mine actually who ended up going to Sicily to work. He paid his way, and he ended up being one of the bodyguards for Al.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I remember he told me, he goes, Michael, they used to go by the cafe, and the cafe would leave all the fresh brioche out for Al, and I would pick up the bag and walk to the set. So they shot in an area where I'm from, maybe, a couple of miles from where I'm from in Sicily. So listen, what an honor would that have been. Andy did a really nice job, but I think they still should have went with an Italian or a Sicilian, an authentic Sicilian, because he was as good as he was in and out of the accent. And for me,
That's been debated for many years. It's been debated a lot. Yeah.
and he's a wonderful actor. There's no question. He's a wonderful actor, Andy. And, you know, it's hard. It's hard to, you know, listen, it is what it is. It's like me trying to play Cuban or me trying to play Puerto Rican. It's just, there's a certain taste to it, a certain smell to it. It's innate in you. And I think, you know, and I just think the third one was doomed because it was the third one. I think that you had two masterpieces there.
Yeah.
That was really hard to, how do you beat that? It's like trying to do like On the Waterfront again or Streetcar. It's like, how do you do that? So as good, it might have been a great movie by itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And nobody would have said anything about anything. And it might have been like this brilliant film. But because there's these two, it's like with the Karate Kid. I mean, you had this really beautiful film. And then you get these other ones subsequently. You get the other one. It's like, wait a minute. Or Rocky. To me, Rocky was brilliant.
Amazing.
And then you get the other ones that were decent. And then 5 was, Rocky Balboa was pretty good.
Part 6.
Right?
Yeah.
And then Creed was good, but it's never going to be Rocky, no matter what you do. So it's like, it's hard. How do you measure that? You know what I mean, Zaya? How do you measure that? But 1 and 2 for sure. But 1 for me, listen, Marlon Brando is, you know, just an Al, my 2 favorite actors. So I go there.
Yeah.
I drop it there.
Yeah, definitely. And Michael, I want to sneak in one Sopranos question, and I'm going to try to keep
it
one because we might have to do a whole separate session just on the Sopranos. But you snuck in season 5.
I did sneak in.
Which for me, season 5 was my favorite season of Sopranos. I love season 5. And as you mentioned, you play Gary Lamanna, Finch's nephew. The one question that I always, you know, wondered in my head, you know, when I saw the scene, because you're hanging from a tree, you know, you're trimming the tree. Was that really you up in the tree, or was that a stunt double?
Yeah, that was scary. That was me. And I can go. We'll talk. I'll tell you a little bit about that story. So I was in New York showing a film that I won an award for at the Metropolitan Opera called The Street Sweeper. And, you know, there was not a lot of auditions for me with I knew about the show because Michael Imperioli and I did a movie, and he got the part when we were doing this other movie, Last Man Standing, with Christopher Walken. So I was trying to get in, but there was never anything coming out in LA. So when I went to New York, I knew somebody said, listen, I'll get you in. And I went in and I met Georgianne Walken, who was Chris Walken's wife. And I'm like, she goes, you're in Last Man Standing? I said, yes. Oh my God. Anyway, so I auditioned, and then she said, can you come back at 3:00? I said, sure. So I went back and I met David Chase and He was really nice to me. And I remember I said, you know, I'm going to stay in New York for a few extra days. I think I might have got this part, but I didn't want to call. But I kind of felt, you know, like sometimes you feel like you got a shot.
Yeah.
And I said, I think I got this. So I was in Arthur Avenue in the Bronx, which is a really big Italian area. And I got the call, and you got the part, blah, blah, blah. So it originally was supposed to be 3 episodes. So I flew back to LA, and then they said to me, you got to come back and we got to do a rehearsal. We got to do like tech rehearsals. I'm like, why? I mean, tech rehearsal for, you know, I'm going to be doing stuff in the yard. I mean, what are my tech rehearsals? So I didn't know. So I remember they picked me up in Manhattan, and there was a stunt guy in the truck, in the van, and they were taking me to the location. So he was a really nice guy. We actually became very, very good friends. Jay, very great guy. And we're talking. He goes, oh, yeah, this is going to be a big scene. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, well, you know, we're going to do a stunt. I said, but why? He goes, no, I'll show you when we get to the set. Okay. Pull up in Newark. We pull up in front of the house. And I start to walk to the backyard. And they stop. You know, Michael, stop. And they turn around and they point to this tree. And it's like 40 feet up. I'm like, he goes, no, you're going to be up there. I go, what are you talking about, be up there? I'm afraid of heights, I mean, I had the same thing in Karate Kid. I'm panicked of heights. He goes, no, we got to go up there. I'm like, so now I'm thinking, how am I going to do this part? So this guy, Jay, goes, Michael, don't worry. We're going to make it work for you. Da, da, da. So I became really good friends with Jay. I said, Jay, please, I'm scared to death. So what we did was we figured out a way to get me in this little crease in the tree where I'm kind of leaning against the side and I don't have to hang. So that's how we finished, you know, rehearsing, and that's how we were going to do the scene. So cut and paste a week later, I go back to LA. I call me back to come back. I go back. They're shooting. The place is packed. People everywhere. I'm like, oh my God. 3, 4, 500 people out there in the streets. And I'm like, oh, so they were preparing my scene right before lunch. I said, Michael, let's do a rehearsal before lunch. Okay. So I go up and do exactly what we did with the stunt rehearsal, which is getting in, get the saw. And I got to pull the saw. I got goggles. I got noise. I got all this stuff going on. It's a lot going on. And you're hanging from a tree. And I'm afraid of heights. So, okay, let's go. Action. So now I'm doing my thing. I've got the thing, got the goggles. I'm saying the lines a lot, and I'm leaning against the thing, and they go, cut. Michael, what are you doing? He's yelling from underneath. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, what are you doing? I said, well, just leaning in. She goes, you can't lean on a tree. You got to hang off the tree. So now I'm like, oh my God. So now they go, let's break for lunch. So I go on my trailer. I'm petrified, petrified because I'm afraid of heights. Yeah. And I said, I'm gonna freeze up there. So I'm in my trailer. I'm like, man, I got to figure this out. They're going to fire me. So I said, I talked myself into it. I'm going to do it. I talked to Jay. I said, Jay, I'm going to do it. Just watch me. Go back up. First take. Done. Got it. That's me hanging up there.
Yep.
So what you do is they get you up there, and I do the whole thing, and I'm hanging off the tree. Then they drop you a little bit out of frame. So they drop me out of frame, and then they cut it, right? And then they get me the second way down, which is out of frame. They go to pull it into me. Boom.
Yep.
So it was me. Yeah. And Jay did like the middle section. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Cause I mean, you would have never known, I mean, watching it, that you were obviously, I mean, you're playing the role, but cause you're kind of having this altercation with Paulie, and he's like, hey, you don't work this street no more. And you go, yeah, says who? And then, yeah.
I don't know if I said that, but I said, you know what I said, right? Says who? Go, you know what I said.
I know I said just one Sopranos question, but I can't, I have to ask
Ask me again. Sure.
What was it like working with Paulie Walnuts?
He was great. He was funny. Listen, I'm looking at a guy who's playing, first of all, the show is great. I had worked with Michael before. We worked for 6 months in LA and Texas together, so in Mexico a little bit. So, and I was a fan of the show. And if I think if I was in New York, I probably would have been on the show a lot more. But they were great. Everybody was great on the show. Working with Paul was fun. He was really nice. He is what you think is from that area. He is that, and he does a great job. He doesn't have to do much, and he was a gentleman, and we had some fun together. So, I got memed a few times with that scene. People meme that scene because it's one of named like one of the funniest scenes on Sopranos, which was funny.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, and then there was supposed to be subsequent scenes, episodes where you'll see me at the card game all banged up with but they had something happened with Robert Loggia, and I think they had to cut out the episode. So unfortunately, but it was a blast. The good thing is I felt like I was doing honorable work as a landscaper. I wasn't doing what they do, which is being a crook and beating people and doing that. So I didn't mind playing that part so much. But you know how I am with the other stuff. It's like, But again, when you look at Sopranos, for me, just to digress a little bit, I don't think it's about the mob. I think it's about family, and the mob is kind of hanging over it a little bit. So I think it was a brilliant way to lay out that genre. It's just brilliant. What David did is just incredible, and the actors were fantastic, and it was a thrill. It was a thrill, and it's still running today. Every time oh, you're the guy from the thing. Yeah, I'm the guy. The other day, somebody said, you're the guy. I said, that's me. Yeah. Oh, you're the guy from the Karate Kid. Yeah, that's me. So it's funny.
Well, you know what it is for me? I mean, if I'm not mistaken, season 5 was 2003. I think it was 2003, maybe 2. And remember, I'm watching Next Karate Kid all the time, during that time. Right. So for me, I was like, oh man, that's Ned. That's Ned right on. I was like, man, that's awesome.
I was working. I was doing pretty good in that time. I had lost my mom, and I came back, and I did Karate Kid. I did the Last Man Standing. Then I did a lot of things, like a lot of independent films that were fantastic and work. And then I lost my father, and I had to leave the business again. It was like crazy. It was just like, so it's very difficult to stay hot in your business if you're always leaving. So Sopranos was after I did something else. So I thought I would get back on the wagon again, and, the wheels fell off again. So but we're back. We're back good now. I think everybody's tranquilo now. We're good. I'm healthy, thank God. And, we move forward. It is what it is.
And I know, Michael, this is a kind of a tough segue. I mean, you mentioned the passing of your parents.
Yeah.
The movie Ritornato, which is a movie that you directed, wrote, and starred in, is basically kind of like a biography on your life.
Sure. In some sense, yeah. In parts of it, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And you flew back to Italy to shoot this film.
Yeah, I shot it all on location in Sicily, in Lamanna, Sicily, where my grandfather was from. And what a special honor that was. I mean, to walk in my grandfather's footsteps and to be in a place like that is a really, really humbling experience. And I'm so grateful for the experience. Regardless of the movie, it's the experience that I had. I'll never forget. It's really left a mark in my life. So it's based on, in different time frames in my life. My mom would pass away many years earlier, and then going to Sicily for the first time. So I kind of made an amalgamation of that experience and put it together. And I have a long screenplay, which we talked about, based on that. And I decided to do, you have to do things, and you can wait around for 5 years and try to get your screenplay made, or you can try to do something on your own. And I decided, you know what? I'm going to try to do this. I remember sitting in Lamanna looking out I was at the cemetery actually, and looking out over the beautiful grounds and looking at the mountains. I was like, I got to do this as a movie. I got to get this done. So I decided, let me write a shorter version of it. So I came back and I kind of carved out a shorter version with little elements of the long script. And then I ended up winning a grant from the Russo brothers, which was fascinating, which I never wrote before. So I was like, wow. And then, they don't give you a lot of money. I wish they would have gave me, 100 grand or 50 grand. They gave me $8,000. So I went to Sicily with $8,000 and having to move the dates up, which was, if Sicilian people, they like to, everything's slow, whatever. So I had to move them up 3 months. It was very, very traumatic for them, but yet we figured it out. And it's what I always say, if you're passionate enough about something, you can get it done. And I really didn't care about money. I didn't care about what Hollywood would think. It was really an homage to my mother and to Sicily and to my grandfather and to anyone from anywhere who had roots, whoever went back to their roots, the feeling that you get, the sensation you get, walking in those footsteps of your ancestors. So for me, that was the sole purpose of all of it. And so with $8,000 in like 4.5 days, and a crew that didn't speak English. Wow. Never directing before, pretty much being in every frame of the movie and then writing it. It was a little bit of a daunting task, but you know what? I said, I'm just going to throw myself in. And I did, and we did okay. Yeah,
and I had the privilege of seeing the film. I highly recommend it. Can't wait for the fans. And that was one of the first things that I said. I was like, when can the fans see this? I mean, this thing's awesome. People need to see this film. And you mentioned, the filming was just under a week. I mean, you would never think that when watching the film. It's such a beautiful film, the work. Yeah. And on your website, ritornatothemovie.com, you have all the photos of kind of behind the scenes, kind of what went into the project. Yeah. And these weren't real actors. These were actually people from Lamanna, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes, they're from Lamanna. My cousin's in it. My cousin, who I'd met in 2011, Turi.
Yep.
He's in it. And it's a funny story. And the other people are from Santa Teresa, Lamanna. They're from the area. Like there's another town underneath Santa Teresa, Savoca, but mostly Lamanna. So they're non-actors. And Turi was a character because he was the first person I ever met in Lamanna, Sicily. So, when I was telling him I wanted to do this movie, he goes, crazy, right? They thought I was crazy. So then I came back and I said, here's the script. And then finally I said, cousin, you're going to play the part. He goes, me? I said, see. He goes, okay, no problem. So, during the pre-production phase, I would tell him, listen, you got to read the script. I got it, cousin, no problem. And he speaks a little broken English, so we can kind of talk, right?
Yeah.
So finally I arrive, and Turi has a panini truck on the beach in Santa Teresa. So the first thing I always do when I go to I go to Sicily, I go to this panini truck because I know he'll be there. So I go and he goes, Cugino, I got the script, no problem. So I said, okay, let's read it. And he starts to read it, Zay, and he's totally off base. He doesn't know what's going on. So I'm like, rehearsal. He goes, what do you mean? I said, we rehearse tomorrow. So I had all the guys come together, and I had a wonderful translator with me to work. Giuseppe work with me, and I would tell him this is what we need, and da da da. And all the actors, the people that were actors, try to get together and get to know each other and kind of go over. And I would give them the story, like a history of what we wanted, and kind of scope out what the scene was about. And then we let them do their improvisation and get comfortable. And by the time, I think we did that for 2 days, and then we were shooting by the 4th day. Like, and here we are, and not a problem. Not one problem. I mean, there's things that are missing that I wish that I could have gotten, and a few things that I had to cut out because they weren't perfect. But you know what? To have the pressure, they must have felt the pressure of trying to do something for me, or for knowing that this was something that I wanted to bring to America, that it was probably hard for them, but they were all tremendous. And the young boy who didn't speak any English.
He was amazing. He stole the show.
He's absolutely gorgeous, stole the show. He's beautiful. We talk all the time. He's my best friend, and I'm going to use him for the next one, Ritornatothemovie. And I have another film that I wrote. I hope he'll be part of. But yeah, they're all wonderful. And, got a lot of great reviews, won a couple of film festivals there, World Fest, nominated for Best Picture, got nominated for Best Director, which was really nice. Got reviewed by 2 authors that were really beautiful reviews that you could see on my website. And kind of what people were saying when they saw it in one of the screenings, which is really cool, what they were saying. I was like, wow. And then you have the Hollywood, version of what people might say. So what I always say is, it's not, to me, it's irrelevant, really, good or bad in a sense, Sam. It's really, what's the passion behind the project? What's the heart? And if you can get some of that onto the screen, translated onto the screen, people are going to be moved. You know what I mean? If you can move somebody for 1 second, then you've done a little bit of your job. So I hope when people watch this, they can relate to something in the story. I believe they will. But again, it was a passion project, and we got more to do. We got more to do here with Ritornato.
Yeah. No, I'm excited for the fans to actually get a chance to see it. Even more excited to hear that you're actually working on a sequel as well.
Yeah, I wrote it already. It's written already. It's fantastic.
Oh, okay. We don't want to spoil anything. I don't want to spoil anything, but I want to definitely, once this one comes out, and then we can probably talk a little bit more about we'll save it for part 2.
Yeah, what I'm trying to do is like kind of a Vincent's story, and we'll talk after, but it's just kind of a consecutive thing that I'm trying to, like, this new thing that I thought that maybe would be really interesting to do. And I also have a historical script that I wrote already that's finished. And I also have the New York script that's finished about the true about my family and my father and my mom and my grandfather, really in-depth scene about what happened, which is really fantastic, that I would like to do shortly. But it's going to take some time to plan it, to raise money, to do what you have to do. But this is a starting point. And also I'm working on this another film that I should be shooting sometime in the next few weeks, maybe 4 to 5 weeks, if we get it done to pre-production. So a really timely project. But my heart is Sicilian, you know that. I love it very much, and I can't wait to go back. And I haven't presented the film yet there because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
Last year I was supposed to be at the Taormina Film Festival, could not attend, which was very disheartening for me. But I'm actually going to New York again in the next 3 or 4 weeks to present it again in New York, because they loved it so much. And also I have another trip set up to show, I won't say where yet, but show somewhere, very, really nice people. I'm going to show it to them in another state. So things are going well. We're doing what we got to do.
And Michael, you mentioned your father, and hopefully I don't get whacked for asking this.
Nah, you will never get whacked. I love you. You're the best.
But is it true that your father had some mob elements in his life, or had?
Yeah, my father was, my father was, first of all, we're very proud, was a Marine, which I'm very proud of. And then he got discharged. He got shrapnel and got shot. And then he worked on the sanitation for 11 years, my dad. And during that time, he was also working in construction at the same time. So he would work the morning shift, which was actually the late night shift in sanitation to early morning, probably the 12 to 8 or 12 to 6 shift sanitation, and then go to construction. And he was a foreman on a construction site in New York. And if you go to New York, you look at the Grace Building in New York. If you ever look it up, the Grace Building, it's one of the first of its kind. It's kind of, it goes up on like an angle, kind of, it was all glass. And I remember that's when I got my fear of heights, because I went to work with him one day, and we were up like on the 10th floor, and we were on the scaffold, and I got paralyzed. And that's when it happened to me. I was like this, and they had to pull me down. But anyway, on my dad, yeah, my dad was got caught up, I think, from when he was working in construction. As you know, during that time, they used to come to the construction sites and, extortion and things like that. So he got caught up in that situation with some people, and then your life unraveled from there, and it was a very difficult time. And here's the thing I took from that. I was very angry for a long time and blamed him for a lot of bad things. But my father had a 3rd grade education, and so he was trying to do what he could do to do what he had to do to try to take care of his family. Now, I don't say he's right at all. I disagree wholeheartedly with it. I always have, but he's my father. So you had to find a way to come to grips with that. So towards the end of his life, we figured out how to do it. And I can only say, whenever I used to go back, and until today, people still write me about my father and how he felt about me, which is really, really, I'm very proud when they talk to me about my father and what he thought about me. And he would say such wonderful things about his son, how proud he was. I was like, wow. So all those years that I was angry, and all those years I was pissed off, and all those years, what did I know what he was going through? I only knew what I thought he was going through. And, people glorify the mob. They glorify all this stuff. But in the reality of it is, it's not a very, very fun situation to be on the wrong side of. So it really, really was a tough thing in my life to be associated with for a while. But that's why I'm the way I am. I'm pretty straightforward, and you know how I am, how I think. I don't really like the stereotypical depiction of Italian Americans. I think it's a little bit beneath what the culture really is. And so that's why I want to continue to do things that I love and show our culture, Sicilian culture, Italian culture, in a better way. Because we're better than that. And listen, mafia stuff is very interesting. We know that, and the greatest movies of all time. But that's a fantasy. It's a fantasy, and it's not an interesting life when you are put in jail or your family's destroyed by that. It's not a fun thing, and people glorify it until they're part of it, or until their family or their parent or somebody they know gets put away or gets killed. They glorify it. They think it's fun. But when you suffer, and your family suffers, and your mom suffers, you don't want anything to do with it. So I chose not to. I don't like to be around it. As you know, we talked about it. But you do what you got to do. As long as you don't affect me, you do what you got to do. I don't have to agree with anything. So,
absolutely. Do you think part of kind of what we see on screen from your performances, do you channel anything from your childhood? Does that emotion come from?
Oh yeah.
Or is it just something else?
Absolutely. I was doing a movie. I remember after my mother died, and I was doing this movie with Michael Biehn, Paul Winfield, William Peterson. It was kind of a mob movie, and I remember I was so emotionally raw from the loss of my mom. Like, it was like palpable, and I would, just always upset, and it was at the tip of a hat I could. And I remember doing the scene, and I remember seeing, just remembering, like, feeling all of a sudden this overwhelming emotion, and I couldn't stop it. It just exploded like a volcano, and then I had to do it. I said, "Oh, I had to do another take and had to contain myself." But those feelings from the loss and from the seeing certain things in your life are always there, and you touch upon them. Obviously, in scenes, you call upon them, and even in Ritornato, like, there's certain moments that I said, I don't want to rehearse. Just let's do it. Because it's there. You know, if you're not afraid to be vulnerable, you're not afraid to express your feelings and be open, it'll come. But if you're always guarding yourself, trying to protect yourself, trying to be cool, trying to be like, an actor that's like a brooding actor, it's not gonna, you're disguising. I just want to feel what I'm feeling. And if you let it out, maybe that doesn't work in the scene, but you get it out and it prepares you, it gets you going. So a lot of that stuff that, when you have a lot of loss, in your life, those are the things you summon up when you're working as an actor. You just learn how to technically do it a little bit better each time, So as I get a little bit older, I get a little bit more in control of it. As a younger guy, I couldn't control it as much. I was angry, emotional, and now as you get older, you learn to kind of put a temperature on it, So, and it never goes away. They get, the feeling maybe subsides a little bit, but they don't go away. The feelings of loss or pain or anger, they just get smaller. They minimize,
Yeah, I don't want to spoil too much, but there's a very specific scene at Donato
Sure.
where you,
See.
mom, and
See.
we touched on, her passing.
Yeah.
And there's
Sure.
a very, very intense scene, and you're brilliant in that scene. And
Thank you.
I don't usually get too emotional when I watch films, but it's hard to not,
Yeah.
kind of pull back from kind of, maybe shedding a tear. But amazing, amazing film. And again, I can't wait for everyone else to see it too. And we see just how brilliant you work. It's different. It's different from what we're used to seeing you.
Yeah, so all the Karate Kid people out there, there's no kicks and punches in this one. This is just a very dramatic, personal labor of love, a journey of mine, a true journey of mine that I went through that, I hope you can appreciate. So no kicks, no punches, no beating up hawks and, whatever I'm doing over there. This is just a more unveiling of certain things that I went through in life and trying to be very honest and open and brave. And I hope people can respond to it. And I can't wait to hear what they have to say. And I hope that they get something from it. If they don't, that's great. But come and watch it with me and tell me what you think and tell Zayo what you think. And maybe I can learn from whatever they say. Maybe I could do something better the next time. I don't know. That's what it's about.
Yeah, and we've been sharing, clips on our page, and we'll continue to be sharing up until the
Sure.
release. And yeah, definitely. I mean, check out the website ritornatothemovie.com. Also, if you just go to Ritornato the Movie on Instagram, Michael Cavalieri's personal Instagram, just link to bio, directs you directly to the website where you'll be able
Yes.
to stream the film on May 8th.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Excited to hear the feedback from the fans. I know they've been messaging for a while. Every time I post a clip, when's it coming out? When's it coming out? There's a release date now. Everyone gets.
Yeah, it's a little bit weird because it's like I said, everybody got to brush up on your Sicilian or Italian because some of it's confusing. Because what I tried to do say was to be very honest and truthful, because that's exactly what happened. And you have the Hollywood types. Well, you don't need to do this. I said, yeah, I know what I don't need to do, but I really wanted to take this experience and make it an honest experience. I wasn't really about box office money. It was about an experience to say thank you and this is what it is. And when you get caught up with people, sometimes cut this, cut that, cut this. And I felt an allegiance, and probably to my detriment in some ways, but I felt an allegiance to the people that work with me and to Lamanna and to Sicily, that you keep them in the movie and you keep the movie. And you know what? It is what it is. And that's what I intended to do. I remember that guy telling me, Michael, if you cut this, 26 minutes, it's going to be this. I'm like, no, that's not what it was. So we kept it the way it is. And I hope people appreciate that part of it. And we learn and we go on to the next one. And hopefully the next one will be bigger and better.
Yeah, absolutely. You did a brilliant job. I felt closer to you after watching the film as well. Again, May 8th, Ritornato the Movie. Check him out on his Instagram, link in bio, or go directly to the website. I promise you're not going to be disappointed, and we'll continue to show clips during the course of the release. Michael, can't thank you enough. This is just fun. I feel like we're just talking shop every time we meet.
Always.
Do this again, and definitely want to hear some more news around. Sounds like you already completed the script for part 2.
Yeah, you're going to read it. You'll read. When I see you in the next couple of weeks, we'll talk about it.
Perfect.
And you read 3 scripts. You read 3 scripts.
Perfect.
But I want to say this to you. You were the first one that I did my first interview with, I believe.
Yep. And you're also, I think,
You're my brother.
my first interviews as well too. So we're
Yeah.
we're brothers forever.
Yeah, and I have a little bit of, I feel very, very honored that you have me on, and you're doing so well. Guys out there, this kid is the best. He does it like nobody else. He prepares like nobody else. He's a gentleman, full of class, and he does it because he loves it. So please support his page, MovieJunk. He's the man. Thank you so much, brother. You're great. And I'll see you in a few weeks, but we'll be talking on Instagram. And guys, all my fans out there, thank you so much for just for being very supportive. I never thought that I would have such a great group of people around me. I feel very, very, very blessed. So thank you so much for having me and being around me and giving me support and energy. And we couldn't do it without you guys. So thank you.
Thank you, Michael. We'll talk soon, and take care.
MovieJunk.com, ritornatothemovie.com. Ciao, guys.